I remember when I was 12, my parents and I, we took a tour at the Walt Disney Animation Studio in Orlando, and it was wonderful to actually see an animation studio, but however, it was apparent that the secrets that they have was definitely elusive to the outsider. Because here as a tourist, we were behind a plexiglass, so that plexiglass was pretty much like a solid metaphor for like that veil as mystery. But so flashing forward, I still wanted to learn animation, but just it was impossible at the time, because in order to learn, you would have to go to out-of-state university or a private college or even overseas, and it was virtually impossible for me at the time. Earlier last year or so that I started to take animation courses, and I'm telling you, I have seen so many online animation courses, but there was always still that veil of mystery. Flash forward to this year, I came across AMB's YouTube channel, AMB Real Animators Training, and I was blown away. I just couldn't believe, the knowledge that he was putting out there, the lectures that he was doing. It just pretty much ripped that veil of mystery off the face of the earth. And the thing that really sets his archive, his online lectures and stuff apart from everyone else is the basics. That's the one thing that a lot of the books, a lot of the online animation stuff lack, was the extreme basics, And when I started on that archive, I started understanding the spacing, the timing, the arcs, the slow in, the slow out. And with each exercise, it builds up on each other. And as a result, I start seeing, the arcs. I start understanding and timing things in my head. And it was just so fascinating. And because of that, it just helped revive, my lifelong desire of learning animation. And it just made me so happy that I'm able to pursue and to dream of becoming an animator. So thank you.
So, are you going to join the library?
Hello and welcome once again to another edition of AMB Animation Livestream. Alright, so it's going to be another fun stream where you're going to watch me break down the master animator, in my opinion the greatest animator that ever lived, Milt Kahl. I'm going to be doing my favorite Milt Kahl character of all time. That's the scene I'm going to be breaking down one of his and studying from that today, purely because I'm very busy doing very non-character animation based stuff at the moment as I'm developing my project. I'm building environments, designing worlds, doing very technical perspective style drawings and things like that, and it means that my animation muscles need to be worked while I'm doing that. So I figure I can just I don't know, I'm not interested in all this. I hate this. Sorry for those noises. This stupid Windows mail app, which I never use. I'm completely like Microsoft. Goodness. Anyway, so so I'm going to be doing that today, but before I do that, I will be going into the community group and looking at some of your work and giving you some pointers with regards to some of the posters in there, what you can do to improve. We've got some people online, so I'll say hello to the people who've made themselves known. Cameron Allen Davidson Black, good to see you. Red Fox and Silver Sun is here. There's an animation I saw recently that I want to study and break down. It looks like it could be fun. I'll just post it in the group when I get to it. Of course, that's exactly what the group is there and for. And yeah, get to it as soon as you can, because this kind of work that you're going to see me do never goes to waste. It's like gym. It's like going to the gym, staying in shape, but for animators. Right, so I'm going to change my scene. Let me just get my other mic on and turn my webcam off. So let's change scenes here. First and foremost, we're going to look into the Real Animator Growth, Development and Progress group. Daniel Garcia's film is finished. We're going to have a look at Daniel Garcia's film. Before we do so, I am going to have a quick look at some of the other posts in here. Grayson has been working on his drawing. So what's he said there? I've advised me to consider pacing myself. I'll now start posting once a week. Yep. When I say pace yourself, I don't mean pace yourself on posting and sharing what you're doing with the world, Grayson. Just adding that. If that's an added stress, we can remove that stress, right? Pace yourself. You know when you're drawing. You're observing your drawing. Pace yourself for that. If you want to post, great. We all get to look at it. But don't add that stress on your mind. Once I develop this habit pattern, I may consider to post a little more often. These are freehand drawings done with a ballpoint pen. This is good, Grayson. You're looking for the shapes and you're consolidating your drawings by heavying around them. Not much to say here. I do like the fact that you're trying to look at anatomy in here and putting pelvis shapes in there. The drawings are a little detached in places. This head feels a little pasted on. But all of this is just necessary training. I like the fact that you're trying to look at the musculature of this character. Very, very nice studies, Grayson. Just keep it up. This is the way that you're going to train your appeal and exaggeration muscles, and learning how to design appealing characters and shapes, which is what will lead me on to Daniel Garcia work, is just understanding how to balance shapes to create appealing character designs. By doing that. Logan Bernard Mitchell, nice to see you posting. Haven't heard from you for a while. Logan's a long-time member, very busy man. Obviously we're all busy, but he's got some young kids and family man and all that. So he's still trying to fit in his animation practice. So props to him for that. I'm glad you continue to carry the torch. If you don't mind giving me advice on this timing and anything else you see wrong. Okay, so I'm gonna first watch it, but I know what I'm gonna say. But let's first have a look, because I've had a brief look at this one already. So now you are attempting a study from the intermediate archive of the training library. And these are your key drawings. Now, one of the major things that's wrong with this, Logan, is that you are taking one of my exercises, right? You're taking something that you're supposed to be learning from, right? And you are now trying to change it, right? And maybe, possibly, you think you can improve on it. Now, maybe you don't, right? But subconsciously, the reason why I'm using this language is because when people do these studies, they want to feel like it's their personal art, right? There's something of me. There's something of me in it, right? But the thing is in order for this me to really get things right, you've got to go through a series of steps, right? In order for you to get to the exit from the learning, right, you have to take these steps, right? You've got to take these steps. And if you don't take these steps and you try to jump ahead, right, you're not really going to understand. So while I can tell you that talk about the timing with you, you're trying to mix the timing of a training exercise which has been designed to teach you primary and secondary action, but you've completely changed the art. So all of this, the timing, you don't really need me to tell you about the timing of this, because it's in the training exercise video. There's a whole section where we talk about how to time all this, right? So, but now here you have this big anticipation move, and now we've got a tiny little throw with a tiny little arc of the arm, right? Which doesn't really help this, on the one hand, which is why you need to follow the exercise, because your acting doesn't feel right. So even if you were to time it great, it would feel off, because you've got this guy on one leg ready to hurl the ball, right? And then he just softly steps his leg down and his arm just does a tiny little arc like that, right? So you're going from like really nice appealing anticipation pose, right, into a very weak action pose, right? So even if that was timed impeccably, it would not read very well, because you got a massive anticipation with a tiny little action. Now you could do that on super advanced level for comedic effect, right? But then you would have to hold on this anticipation. You'd have to have him go even more back, and then very slowly, lazily change his whole body language to just flick the thing with the arm. But that's not what you're trying to do, Logan, here. What you're trying to do is you're taking something that's in the exercise and you're saying, I'm going to change it. I'm going to do it this way. So even here, like, all these frames are unnecessary if he's going to be leaning forward. So the midsection, so this end pose is quite big, right? But these arm movements are too close together for this end pose. So timing wise, you're going to have to hold on this for maybe half a second, and then have very few frames, possibly a multiple frame if you wanted to do it this way. And then we really need to have him on that one leg and maybe do a few bounces forward. Just having him stay in that one position isn't enough. The reason this has happened is because you haven't yet learned, Logan. We've learned the staggering bouncing ball, right? Which is where we learn about how when somebody takes the anticipations, they could do little hops back, or if they take a big forward action, they could do little hops forward. We've learned all of that with the weighted pendulum, with the figure of 8 arcs, and all of those things. But now the point of this archive is we're applying those rules to character, right? But if you're going to try and jump the gun, it's just not going to look very nice. Which is why the end of the scene, if you look at these keys are nice, then at the end of the scene it just feels, then this little kind of like afterthought of, I'm going to have him looking, right? There's no real secondary action, right? The whole point of this exercise was secondary action. So if he really was going to throw it and really look about where it was going to go, he'd go from that pose where he's on one leg and his arm is forward. Then he would like look up with his arm still forward, right? And then he'd stand back, right? Then maybe take a few shuffle steps back, and then put his hand and look where on his hip, where is it going, and then lean forward, right? But all of this is secondary action. Now this is the very first exercise you're learning about primary and secondary action, and you're already trying to change it and put your own stuff in there. But that's like, you don't know how to do good primary action yet, with due respect, and you're trying to change it by putting in your own ideas of secondary action. This is why most people who learn animation online, this is why most people fail, okay? This is why they fail, because they don't want to, they feel like they're being copycats, right? And you want to be an artist. The whole point you're learning is what you want to be an artist, but you're learning, right? You're learning, so you want to be an artist, but you're learning how to be an artist. So why I don't understand, it's not just Logan, why people don't comprehend. Its ego is what it is. They don't comprehend the fact that you've got to learn. Imagine some students standing around somebody doing major open heart surgery, and the students are standing there and the doctor's doing it, and this other student doesn't want to listen, right, to the doctor, right? And he's just like gonna just do, I'm a doctor, right, I'm just gonna do it my way, right? Imagine doing that. What would be the consequences of that open heart surgery if somebody did that? Well, the same consequences are happening to your animation skills, right? So that's why my system is called real animator training. We need to get real with ourselves first, right? We need to get real with ourselves and understand what it is we're doing. There's plenty of cheap, fun alternatives on YouTube, with really nice drawings and nice flowing animations from some of my alternatives. If you want to do that and feel like you're that, then go ahead and learn from those guys. But my system is very over the shoulder. You're going to follow what I do. You're going to do exactly what I do. Because let's get one thing clear. What you've been doing hasn't really worked for you for all these years, right? So if you're coming to me and you're paying me money to learn from me, it would make sense that you change what you're doing and you kind of listen to the things that I'm asking you to do. Otherwise, it's just going to be a waste of money, frustration, irritation, and you may as well just try to work it out all on your own. Why bother looking to me for anything, or looking to my program and then taking the exercise that I've set and says I'm doing it my way? Now, people like to describe themselves as rebels. I'm not saying this is you, Logan. I'm branching out. Logan has been a long time member of my training library. He sends me personal messages. He's a really decent man. I really value his participation in my group. So Logan, as I'm talking now, I'm talking about the mentality of people who are learning online. I'm not just talking about you, so please don't think I'm aiming all this at you. So what it is you just want to feel like I'm a rebel, I'll do it my way. Okay, then face the consequences. Your way hasn't worked. It'll likely never work, and you'll carry on being bitter and thinking and wondering why you're so crap at what you do, right? So go ahead and do that, or just accept that you're trying to improve your skills and you're not where you need to be, and you need to listen to somebody who is where you need to be, who's really taking the time to share those things with you, which will help you. It's all designed to help you. It's not designed to try and tell you to obey, right? Freedom is yours, right? You're free to do as you please, right? But if you want to be free as an artist, then you need to understand the craft, the rules, so you can do whatever you want. Now, if you don't understand it, it's like trying to speak language. If you can't speak the language, then you're not going to be able to communicate. You're not going to be free, right? So that's the main problem that I see with this exercise. Thank you, Logan. Now we've got a new person sharing work in the group, Kim Jones. Kim, thank you for sharing. We don't really care about the software you use. All we care about is the glorious work, hand-drawn, frame-by-frame animation that you're doing. You say it's a few months old. It's your favorite. There's a lot of good things with it. Now, if you'd really like video feedback in these live streams, then never post on Facebook, because I can't frame by frame the animation. I'm trying to zoom into it and click on it, but we can't even make it big, right? So I'm trying to access this post, but it's just a GIF, right? So GIFs are a no-no because I can't frame by frame, but I can already tell you what you can do, what things that you can think about, right? This is a nice, you obviously like to draw, and you've developed a certain style of drawing, which is good, but there's a few. Well, there's one, you've got good sense of weight to it. You've got a good sense of arcing. There's a good sense of timing. So you understand a few, there's good follow through, overlap and drag. It's pretty solid, you know, in places where losing things, and I'm going to help you with that, but it's got nothing to do with solid drawing. It's more to do with arcing. The tail is a little bit off, but aside from that, what I'm trying to say here is that you're exhibiting a good understanding of animation law that you already have. But the main issue that I can see with this is your character is very much off balance. Now, he can be a heavy set guy walking, but if you haven't done it this badly, right? But I'm illustrating my point, right? It doesn't feel like his weight is distributed properly, right? It feels like he's very much off balance. So when you're doing characters like this, you really need to think, and this is where you're kind of losing mass, and you really need to think about the pelvis, the anatomy, the rotation. So let's say that this leg is moving forward here, right? Right? And this leg is coming back like this, right? So the pelvis is rotating this way, right? And we'll put this on a down. Let's put this in a down position. Let's put some weight on this in a down position, right? Then we can have this more like this, right? So the pelvis is rotating here. So what's going to be happening is the spine is going to be up here. It's going to be, but then the body is going to be rotating this way, right? So this is where you're losing. So your chest is, you don't really have any chest anatomy in the character. Your chest is just shrinking and growing because we're not seeing the turning, right? And then my head can be a little bit overhung, but it's pretty much, we're kind of balancing the weight of this guy. So then this is, right, this side here. So then the arm is going to be coming more this way. So we can feel the twist of that body, right? We can feel the twist in the body. So this body is twisting this way and the pelvis is twisting this way as this leg is moving forward, right? Like this. Then our guy has got some balance, right, in him, right? And again, his head is going to be... What I do like about your thing is you've got a figure of 8 head in the arc. Now, one of them kind of clicks into place, so there's not much rhythm in the timing of the head, which can be good, but again, it feels a bit more like a timing error if we look at it. I can't slow it down for you because you've posted it as a GIF. So here, this, again, it's to do with the chest is not really twisting towards us. You're trying to create that illusion with the arms, but we're losing that anatomy. We're not really seeing the twist in the chest. It feels, it's probably because you need to learn a little bit more about drawing muscles and necks. So, you know, as the clavicle is here and the chest is here, the neck muscles and the trapezius are, and the shoulders are going to be like this. So if they're going to be turning this way, we'll be seeing more of the back muscle, right, and the neck coming here, and the chest will be going this way. So this line will be going like, you got to think of it in sections. So this again is it's all anatomy. So then the trapezius is going to be revealed to us as that arm. Then similarly, if the body is turning towards us more, we're going to need to feel this triangle here and this shoulder getting a little smaller as the chest comes in, and the neck doesn't really, this then will squash and stretch, right? So the neck, your neck feels more like it's just sliding. It doesn't feel like the neck, he's got a neck. It just feels like you're sliding the head within that space, right? I wish I could make it bigger. So your neck anatomy is pretty much nowhere here, right? So you really need to think about, it looks like his head is floating inside his body here, which is taking away the illusion. So already he's off balance, and you've got this nice figure of 8 arc on his head, which is beautiful, by the way. So well done on that. And this follow through and overlapping action to give his head weight, but he's off balance, and also his head doesn't feel like he's attached to that body. It's just floating in the neck area. So you really need to think about that. My suggestion would be, before you want to draw your character, do these animations with simple shapes. So again, here we've got a simple shape here. We've got a side contour. Here's the hole for your neck, right? So maybe your head is gonna sit on there, right? There, the simple shape for the head. So now you can work out where the arms are, right? Simple shape for the arms. So you animate with simple shapes first, and you make sure that we can really see and feel the distortion of the anatomy of the character, because as you put the fur on it, that's all good, but we need to feel that this head is not just going to come in here, just float in here, and the neck still kind of feel the same with a little bit of a movement of the body in there like that. These are the things that professionally will make the difference to this work. This is why I'm online. I see a lot of work like this on Twitter from talented self-taught independent animators, a lot in the furry community, but who've been self-teaching themselves and have had a good grasp of a lot of these things, but they just don't know how to piece it together. So that's something that I would really suggest that you really work on. Otherwise, it's a pretty nice piece of animation. The body mechanics are pretty good. If he was a little bit more balanced, you can still have him, as I said, you can still have him hunching over to create that animalistic feel. You can still have him hunching over, but we need to distribute those legs a lot, nicer, right? To get more weight in the pose, so the character is balanced, right? He's not, this guy looks like, there's an invisible ghost keeping him upright, the way you've animated it, right? So we need to really understand those things. But Kim Jones, this is a good, wonderful first post. Thank you for sharing. Charles Ray, I've got to make a comment on his, because he said you hear that paper is king. Charles, I'm going to suggest the same thing that I suggested to Kim. Again, if you would like us to look at your posts a bit more, why I could click on this, probably because it's not a GIF. Well done. You're doing the right things, all right? I don't care about the software or the paper. What you're doing is pretty good, but before we go on to doing hands and things like that, why don't you animate you know, why don't you animate simple shapes in motion, right? So think about the perspective lines, right? Animate, learn how to animate that. I'm just going to focus on one, right? We can have a bit of distortion in there, right? Right. All right. Learn how to animate one. Let's do the other one. Right. So if you focus on, it's like if you, this is why my training system is probably not for everybody, because I'm like, well, you want to learn how to do something, but you got to learn how to do it properly. So we need to focus on shapes first, right? We need to really focus on shapes first before we start trying to do complex things. Now, I'm not necessarily, maybe you've just given me an idea for a whole video, right? Which I might do. Right? But we do something like this. But these shapes, they all follow arcs. Now you're doing the whole arcing thing. But you see how when we deal with shapes, it becomes so much more, we're so much more quicker and able to try things, right? So now my advice to you is you should spend a good month, if you just want to do something like hands. You need to learn the anatomy of hands, but you should spend a good month just playing, right? Just playing with, like, I'm gonna make it smaller here, right? Like this, right? I'm gonna make it bigger, right? Right, like that. Just like that. Then we wouldn't see that. We wouldn't see that there. We wouldn't see that there, right? So already we're adding to the shape, right? Now we'll add some more to the shape, right? So this is the power of learning what in animation, real animated training, we call the secret science of shape simplification, right? Now we're going to add some more to the shape, right? No, you see, I'm not even using a light box, so I could be working like you were working in your sketch pad, right? I'm just developing shapes within shapes. Now I'm going too fast, and as I said, I know hand anatomy, which is why I can do this. So once you develop the shape, all you need to know is the anatomy, and you're good to go, right? So let's now create some more shapes in there, right? We're going to do some more, and then you're going to very quickly see how this all comes together, right? Let's splay these shapes. Right, now I'm going to create some more shapes. See, look, look how careless I'm being, but once you know anatomy, all this thing about solid drawing and all this looking at the light box, it's pretty meaningless, right? Because once you pretty much know these things, arcing, timing, slowing in, slowing out, all of the laws that I talk about in every live stream or every video that I make, I'm always talking about animation law, right? It soon starts to just come together, right? That's why we begin with bouncing balls and swinging pendulums and all those kind of things. So these slowly become hands, right? And let me just very quickly now, right? I've got those things in place. So you should ideally be training your brain to see simple shapes and not waste your learning time and development time trying to draw cartoon characters and trying to get the cartoon hand shapes. You need to, because that stuff should be done at a different, like you saw Grayson working his cartoon drawing, learning those shapes, right? So that stuff should come a little bit, should be separate. It's like going to the gym. That's why I call it real animator training. Because when you're doing actual animation, you're going to be wanting to more be focusing on arcing, timing, slowing in and slowing out, right? You see, so here I'm doing what's called an anticipation, but it just started with some simple shapes, right? And I'm continuing to move those shapes. These hands are just like one finger separate with a bunch of others put together on it like that. Then the big movement. So we're going to be opening the fingers. You say, well, how do you know how to draw the hands then if you just deal with shapes? That's because I've learned the anatomy of the hand, and I've learned the anatomy of the hand in a way where I'm focusing on the simple shapes, right? So again, I'm doing this very quickly and very loosely. Now we're going to be putting squash and stretch, right, on this. So all of these are going to be joined here, right? Then we're going to put the fingers completely together, right? See a little bit of the other hand in there, right? So can you see the process of how it all starts to come together just through knowing about simple shapes, right? And then I can put in the bones, a little bit of bone to make it more believable, right? My drawing is still very loose, right? But I'm being fast because there's another post that I want to look at, but I'm hopefully just giving you enough inspiration to know that it doesn't have to take long for you to play and explore, right? Because you play and explore with these simple shapes, you're not wasting time, right? And that's how, when you become an experienced, seasoned animator like me, you can block out stuff that 100% works very quickly, like with very little effort, and then you draw it in. You spend all of the time drawing it in and making it look pretty, right? These drawings are still very very rough and very loose and all over the place, but it's enough to illustrate my point, right? So we have now, this would be, we'd need to slow out of this a lot more, right? So what we have is, we have an anticipation and an arc and a clap and then a bit of follow through, overlap and drag, right? And then it'll open up here. Now this should be a lot slower, right? If we just scrub it, it's too fast. But we've got the bare bones of something which is kind of like what you had here, but you're trying to draw in these other fingers, and you're giving yourself a lot of brain work too early on before you're really understanding. You see, the spacing between your hands is very even. You have an arc happening, which is nice, but if you look at my thing, right, this is very close together. Now there's a big gap here, and there's an even bigger gap here, right? We slow out, and then we're a lot closer together here, right? So that's how we create the illusion of weight. They're not evenly spaced. They're not even. There's not even spacing between. So you really need to the things that I recommend to you is to really look at arcs, look at timing, and the way to do that is to where to be slow in of an arc and slow out of an arc, right? And we're going to look at, in our study, which is, we're 42 minutes in already, but in our study we're going to be looking at pose to pose. So we're going to be looking at all these things, right, in the next half of the stream. Mr. Leon, how are you? Moy Tunes, Beau Fonville, and Red Fox is there. Good night to you. Right, so the last thing I'm going to look at is, we're going to look at Daniel Garcia's film. Daniel Garcia, I finally got my little short done with final colors. A friend will be doing some music. Awesome. What he says is, I think between then and getting it done, my drawing has improved more than it looks in this short. Yeah, that's what happens, Daniel. Since I was sticking to the original design, which is 3 years old, I think if I had used an established character, it would have been faster than if I didn't work on a scene. Yeah, while I'd forget the model and draw it slightly differently. That's what happens when you're growing. I think I over-designed some things. You can see a quarter of the full floor tiles I designed. No, you can never over-design, whether it's in or whether it isn't. You're always enriching your project. Don't ever think you over-design parts. What has happened, Daniel Garcia, before we look at it, is now you're learning how to make a film, right? And making a film isn't just doing little animation tests, right? Making a film is having environments, right? This is what you're learning, is you're learning the law of staging, right? The 7th law. You need environments, you need props, And you need all of these things, can never be over designed, because okay, you're making a short little film and you think, okay, it's just a quick little thing. But no, in the long run, you're storytelling. You're storytelling. And when you're storytelling, you want your story to be enriched, right? You want to, and the way you enriched your story is by having details, right? You watch a film like Labyrinth, in the very opening scene, we see Sarah reading her book, and what I love is we pan past her bookshelves with all the different books on her shelves, all the different posters on her wall and things. We immediately are introduced to Sarah's personality by the things in her room. You can never over design, you know. Maybe you think you have, because it seems irrelevant for a little quick short like this, but no, you're doing the, what I like about you, Daniel, right? There's plenty of things about your work that shows that you're still a bit rough around the edges and with your drawing, and you know, you need work here and you need work there. Who doesn't? But what I like about you is you really give it your all when you're doing something, and that's the best mentality to have, right? Cameron Black is like this as well. That's the best mentality to have, because while you may feel like you're progressing slowly, right? Once you've ironed out all these things like drawing ability and things like that, the things that everybody wishes they could do, right? But once a lot of people have that, they don't really go anywhere with it. But I'm telling you, by having this mentality, once all those things are pieced together, you're gonna fly, Daniel, right? You really are, because you've got all this other habits and mentality that's just making it work. I mean, you've made a short film, well done. Painting backgrounds is not my speciality. I'll be doing some painting studies, and of course, you're good. You need to work on that too. Okay, there's some things I do differently now, but generally I'm satisfied with the result. Okay, let's have a look at his short film.
Punch! Falcon, punch! Dragon, punch! How? Kick! Yes.
All right, so very well done on finishing that film, Daniel. There's just, you know, it's you can pretty much see that you have an overall understanding. I don't care. I wish I could get rid of this stupid Microsoft Mail app. I don't care if my mail is not up to date. I don't use it. Sorry. Sorry for those intrusive noises in the background to people. So, Daniel, I've said this many times. You clearly have an understanding of all of the laws of animation. What I feel you're missing in particular is exaggeration, appeal, solid drawing. You're not missing, but these are the areas that I feel you really need to work on. Solid drawing and styming, right? Your staging is pretty good actually, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at each one of these shots and tell you things that I think you could do to not really to improve it because the film's done, but things that you really need to think about. One, the first thing is your framing as a filmmaker, right? Your framing. We want things to be clear for the eye to read. This is the first thing, right? So, in this shot that we see here, we've got a candle, right? As the opening shot. The background is brown, the candle is brown, and we can't really see it, right? The candlestick is here, and then you've got all this noise behind it, and we don't really know what we're looking at, right? So you've opened with an establishing candle. Now the window, you see how the candle stands out because of the window, the blue contrast. So that's something that I think you should really think about as well, is contrast to make things stand out. So the background and the candlestick, there's not enough contrast. The other thing is your framing is too tight. Now, can you see these little dots that are in this program here? These are called safety, right? These are called safety. So the one inside is what we call the safe title, and the one outside is what we call the safe action. Now, just because it's safe action, and this is like the edge, right? Now, just because it's safe action, it doesn't mean that we should have the candle stick all the way to the bottom and all the way to the top with the window here dividing the screen and all this here, all this. This is practically negative space. It's not negative, but it's, theoretically it's not, but because you've filled it with all this, but we don't really know what we're looking at. Now a lot of people talk about thirds. I don't know if you have my training library. Let me just very quickly bring this in. I don't know if you have this archive. First, you got to ask. Let me just go to the dashboard. But what I want to talk to you about is inside my latest archive, the Professional Animation Lectures Study. We go to the Law of Staging, Filmmaking Fundamentals for Storyboard Artists. So let me just refresh this page. That's happening way too often. I'm not happy about that. So here we've got we've got all of it, but there's camera angles and shots, camera moves and transitions, shot composition, right? Shot composition we're going to be talking about. So camera angles and shots we talk about framing, but in shot composition this is like 1 hour 22 minutes of pure guidance of what I'm going to briefly tell you now. So I highly recommend, if you don't have this archive, to consider investing in it, Daniel, because it's going to really help you with what you're trying to do here. So one of the things that everybody likes to have, and you can have it on your iPhone, is your rule of thirds, right? I'm just going to very intuitively draw this noughts and crosses thing in here, right? So you want to either have, I personally don't want to, you want to think about having things on each one of these points here like this, right? To balance it off. Or if you've got something here, you're going to have something here. If you want your candle to be here, I would seriously consider putting it, I would seriously put the candle lower here like this, right? But then you'll need something to balance it, like the window wider, hair like this, or you've got a plant pot to balance it on that side. You have the thirds, you also have the triangles, so you can divide it like this, the golden triangles, which focus on what's in this half of the screen. So you never really want to divide your screen in half, right? Which is what you've kind of done with these. So it's like we don't really know where, ultimately you want the viewer to see what you want them to see, right? We're not really looking at this candle. It's challenging to our eyes. The other thing is, when your character is doing things, so even here, there's there's negative space on the ground, but normally when we have a shot where somebody steps in on the ground, we want to think about the eye level and the horizon line, because the point is we want them to be focusing on what they're looking at, right? But here you've got your character stepping on the ground, but there's nothing there, right? There's all this empty space here. We don't really know what we're looking at in regard to that, Daniel. So again, you want to have a horizon line, and then you want to kind of that'll also help with so you could have the candle there, right? And then I would be thinking about, if you had your rule of thirds thing, you'd have your candle thing here and the foot kind of here, right? So with all this stuff, which will kind of, actually I would lower that a little, which will kind of make things more readable. So here we've got a profile of a foot on so you're panning up, but the floor doesn't look really like the floor. So why are we panning up? Why are we panning up? You're wanting to do a camera rotation to make her look badass, but it doesn't really, we don't feel anything. It just feels awkward, like you pull out, right, to reveal. Again, you've pulled out to reveal, but why doesn't the foot step in this shot? Then that camera pull out would make sense, but the foot steps in on a completely different shot, right? And now we have a strange pan to this side where your camera just kind of decides to go this way, then it does this move like this up, which doesn't really give now you're okay, because you're going to the character in the center of the screen, right? So from here on in it's okay, right? But this particular move is awkward, right? Because you got to think about the news. What does news stand for? North, east, west, and south. The news, right? So you're panning northwest, and then you're panning north, right? So you're panning northwest and north, but you got to have a reason for it, right? And you got to think about the composition as you're doing it. And here it just feels awkward. Also, your drawing here, your arms, your foreshortened arms, they feel very small against the character's body, right? So you got this long torso, but the foreshortening on the arms is a little bit off. And the character's breasts in relation to the size of her other proportions feels a little bit off as well. Now, you've worked a lot on anatomy, but I think as you're trying to design a character, again, here, if you look at you need to think about simple shapes. Again, if you look at the shoulders, you're getting like this kind of sectioned off. Just have it as a simple shape, right? have it as a simple shape. If I'm gonna put a complex character, like what's your character wearing? Got this open jacket. So I'm gonna look at that with the milk cow stuff. You've done the studies, but I think when you're doing your own stuff, you kind of lose it. So have it as a simple shape, right? So I'm gonna have my clavicle in here, right? And the shoulders are gonna be here, right? And the neck is gonna be here. So if my neck is here like this and my shoulders are like this, right? So then I can now have the ruffles off the side of there, and then this thing will come open on there like that, right? Then when I want to tidy it up, right, it's all clean, simple shapes, right? Which will then, you've got that coming from there, and then you can have this effect if you so desire, right? But you've got to think of it as simple shapes. Your stuff is kind of like what it feels like you're drawing it like illustration, which is okay. You can go over and draw it like illustration, but then when you're animated, you got to think you're always moving big simple shapes, and it'll look cleaner, it'll look nicer, it'll look better proportioned. Foreshortening wise, right? If you just have a shape like this, then your foreshortening will make a whole lot more sense. Hello, Hervonia Baker. But I'm not going to focus too much on those drawing things. So again, here, if we look at the proportioning, as you're animating the hand coming to the head, her head is huge compared to her hand and her arm, right? So we have to think about that in terms of appeal. I mean, maybe you're going for this, it reminds me a little bit of Beavis and Butthead, but also your teeth and your mouth, right? They're just, now you've been through my archive, and I know you've studied anatomy, and I know you know this, right? So we're just going to have a mouth, and when we open that mouth, we're going to know that we're going to divide those into 4 incisors and 1 canine, right? And then you're going to always have the lips on top, right? So it doesn't matter, right? If the mouth, like you can have a shape like this, if the mouth is just a little bit open and you want to show a little bit of that, right? But this is the thing, but you're kind of like having the mouth shaped like this. So I'm a little bit confused as to how that's happened, Daniel, because I know you've studied a lot of anatomy. What I think is happening with your arm, why your arm is looking smaller, it reminds me of when I would work on animated projects in the UK with the British animators that did 2D. A lot of them did place and trace, and it's again probably why your foreshortening is off. They would have an arm like this, right? And then if that arm was gonna be going over here like this, right? They wouldn't use their eye to judge it, even though it's a lot easier. They would somehow take the piece of paper that they were animating on, and they would exactly like what they do in digital, they would move that there and they would then trace it, thinking that that's the length of the forearm. But then that takes the whole drawing of foreshortening out the window, right? We want to feel the muscle. We want to feel the shape change. We want to see the angle of the arm and all those things that enable that, and that enable the eye to believe those things. So part of what makes this film a bit less appealing, aside from your framing, is the inconsistency. It's okay, you don't have to create a conventionally attractive character. That's fine. But there are certain things which, like the size of the head and the neck in relation to the size of her hand. And now here, if we look at her hand and her neck, it feels more natural. The size and the head of the neck is more natural, right? So there's some inconsistencies here. So you don't have to create convention. See, now she's proportioned. Her shoulders are a little bit small and her neck is huge, but she feels a little bit more proportioned, a little bit more correctly here, right? So now suddenly we get a tiny little arm and hand again, right, against a massive head, right? So you're putting in a lot of secondary action here, which is great. You know, no, your timing is not... What happened there? Get lost. Your timing is not necessarily bad, right? You spend a lot of time on the anticipation of the... So everything here is good animation law-wise. You've got anticipation, you've got secondary action with the spitting of this, the wiping of the head, timing of the hair flick. But all of that is not, you know, all of that good stuff is not really available to us easily unless like you're pointing it out like me, because of the inconsistency of the character design. You're keeping the head solid, but your arms and your hand proportions are kind of all over the place. Again, here the eye expression of the cheek, right? We don't want to have, unless you're wanting to, you know, you're giving us like different vibes. We're not like a massive SpongeBob character with a cheek with a swelling eye like this, right? You're giving us this more humanoid thing. So we just want the cheek to kind of be simple, right? Just think about that, make it simpler. And again, I'm not like, it's okay, you kind of like, your timing here is strange. This is good, okay? The expression could be worked on, but it's okay. But now we suddenly open up again and go in again. And it feels like a bump in the camera move, right? An unnecessary camera move. You could have kept the acting without that weird bob, right? So that weird extra head bob just feels strange. Again, here we've got an up angle on the camera, but the flame is not really the thing that's being read, right? So your contrast and your lighting is not helping us read that, right? I'm not sure what this is, right? It feels like another flame to edit, but I don't know why that flame is there, right? Because if we want to be within the camera, within the candle flames to do an edit like that, we can't be looking at the only flame and then have a flame appear from nowhere to create an edit, right? So there's some confusion there. Again, framing wise, we're looking at all of and the flame is cut halfway up here like this, right? And we're looking at that a lot. So it feels like the cameraman is missing the shot, right? Very tight. So here, this again, this walk, right? The body is going down, but the head is kind of going up. So there's a strange bump here. The body goes down, but the head gains mass, right? The body goes down, but the head gains mass, and then we come up out of it. So we need clean arcs, right? So here you've got the up and down of the walk, and I know you know how to do a walk cycle, but here your timing is a little punchy, and it feels like it's quirking in places. It doesn't feel like the character, it feels like there's an error in the walk cycle. See that sudden jump up? See, now here you proportion the character more. She's still got this big head with a thick neck, but at least the arms and hands are in proportion, right?
Punch.
So again, here you're framing. It's like she's walking over to the candle, but we don't really know that because we haven't really, you haven't really given us a chance to see the candle and her together in one shot yet, right? She's looking at the candle, right? So she walks over, but how far is she from the candle, right? So now again we got from this shot to this shot, which is more or less similar, but this feels, again, what's awkward is this isn't a mid shot, but it's, you know, you got a shoulder and you got her hands in this shot, right? And this is the proportion, right? Then in the next shot you got this massive head, but we can still somehow see the hands and the shoulders in there, and it feels like the same shot, tighter, but just awkwardly framed, and it doesn't edit together very well. So you either focus on the face more so like you look at the body, the upper body hair and the upper body hair, they're virtually the same.
Punch.
So now here we're following the fist through, but now you cut away, right? So it takes away the effect, right, of the continuation.
Punch.
But it's not bad. But again, here the punch lacks any real power because we're seeing too many in-betweens here of it.
Punch.
We see it settle, like, really you should have just got to this and have it settle back. The framing here is okay. So here again, your framing of the face, we don't really, it feels like we're unusually tight into the character's head, face, right? We're seeing the eyes, we're not really seeing enough of her face or just her eyes. It feel, again, you need to balance your framing a lot better. That's a better shot. So again, here you're whizzing up from the feet. There's no real sense of geography. I'm not going to go into every shot. There is one more thing I want to talk to you about in this, and then we will move on to our study. So the main issue here with this work is also geography. Right, the simple map is, right, there's a coliseum of some sort, and the candle is here, and your character is here, and your character has walked to the candle here, and that's all we need to think about. But your shots are always, the character is always looking this way, even when we're on a close-up of her reacting to the camera. When her fist is in front of the camera, we're seeing her looking off screen in a very flat way. Sometimes we're looking at her looking towards us, right, which is good. But then when we look at her, we see full body shots of her, right? Her body is fully in view, but the candle's not in the foreground, right? The candle is nowhere to be seen, like in these shots. So we cut away, we see her foot, right? But how far is she from the camera? Candle, how close is she? Her fist is right here. She can't be that far from it, right? Now we're pulling really far back, but where's the candle, right? Now you have it, right? Which is, okay, let's watch this.
Falcon.
Again here. So again, it doesn't really, we don't really know how far she is with the candle. It's the way you're framing the shots, it's not really reading in a nice way. We know, but it doesn't flow. The editing doesn't flow. Again, with that framing, you've got the candle here, right? You've got half of the screen here. You've got her down here, and then all of this space up here, right? I like the fact that you've got the background creating that triangle, but her never really you should not cut a character's feet off at the ankles, right? You either have the feet or you just above the knee, right? Don't cut them off at the knee, don't cut them off at the ankles, don't cut them off at the belt, just below the waist or above the waist, chest line, shoulder height, chest, these are the terms that you need to. So the other thing I'm going to talk about is, again, here, the perspective. If you're going to have her, see, she's not that far from the camera, then the candle should be huge, right? But her fist does not really, it's not even hitting the candle, right? Here, right? Now it's here. Now it's underneath. You might be trying to make a low angle, but then you need to have more of a perspective of the candle like that, and her fist would be going here, right? So the continuity here is off. So her fist is below the flame, and she's punching nowhere near the candle, right? And now the flame is huge. Here the flame is tiny on a much bigger shot. Here the flame is huge, right? And her arm is tiny, right? It's okay you did that to show that there was an effect of the flame, but even here, right? The ordinary flame is huge. And her hand is tiny, and she's this close next to it. So your geography again is off. We got a top shot, but I don't know why. And these aren't the most appealing shots to look at. But that's what you've chose to have. I'm not going to go too much into that. So again, here as she does this dragon punch, the framing is so tight on her. Why don't we frame like Ryu when he's about to knock Sagat? We go and we really see the fist, and the emphasis is on the fist, right? With this, right? So, but here you're framing this thing. We're seeing her back, and her butt more than we're seeing her fist and what's happening there, right? Then we pull out as a jump cut, but again the proportion drawing of the character is a little off. I'm not going to keep picking on you for that. We've spoke about that. You're trying to do dynamic perspective. Dynamic perspective like that, right, requires not just anatomy drawing, but even like if I want to be consistent with this kind of angle, I'm gonna need some guidelines, right? But you're kind of winging it, which is why the draftsmanship feels really awkward, right? Because you're kind of winging it. And also the angle of the building in the back doesn't necessarily suit the vanishing points, right? So let's say you've got this kind of curvature and it's getting straighter towards the horizon, right? Right. I'm eyeballing it myself, right? So you need to think about her belt, which you kind of have, but then her head and neck is going to be hidden, as we're seeing. Like, you got to think of it as a series of ellipses, right? So that will sell that perspective better, but you're trying to show it like as if we can see her neck and her shoulders from that angle. We can't, right? Also the height of her in comparison to this candle, right? If we look back here, okay, that's consistent, right? The other thing I want to mention to you is I did like that expression. Again, your bottom, it might be your choice. It might be your choice in your design, but that's why the design feels confused to me. It feels you're going for some a kind of more thick-necked anatomical character, right? But then as you animate, you're floating those teeth on the lips, right? So as she moves her mouth open and makes a different shape, those teeth are floating on the lips. The lips should be covering the teeth, right? Like I said, the four incisors and the canine, if you want to show a bit of the bottom teeth, maybe the other underside like that, right? The lips should be covering the teeth, not where the lips go, the teeth decide to go, right? Takes away from your animation. It takes away from what I feel was a nice expression. Now this again here, this
Kick!
right? You clearly took reference, and well done for that. But again, I'm not sure doing it all in this one shot really helps, because she's huge here, right? She's come towards the camera to kick, but now she's suddenly I'm not sure what she's doing. She's going small and getting away from us. And it feels like you're trying to, this leg should be huge kicking the camera. Like this foot, even if it's turning, if she's back here, this should be coming into the camera, right? Not getting smaller. Like, she was huge before, but then when she actually kicked it, she became tiny, right? So we need to be getting bigger there, not moving away from us, right? Right? So she managed to kick the camera by moving away from it, right? So I'm not sure if that shot particularly, like here, look at her size in relation. She's coming towards us, right? She's bent kneed, right? Now she's standing full height on one leg and she's tiny, and she's jumped back, right? And so you've done the live action reference of the kick, but it's like you've just tried to make it fit and work in this angle without really thinking about whether it's the best angle for that particular shot. So now she's huge, stretch huge, and she's tiny. Then she comes and step, like her placement, like it's like there's no floor, right? 1 minute the ground's here, then the ground's here, and she's getting really big hair, and she's standing on the ground here, right? So it's very inconsistent in that regard. Again, the framing here this gut doesn't really add, because we're looking at her screen left and now she's screen right. So she's looking screen right, now she's looking screen left, right? So, and again, you kind of like the character is framed here, right, with all this space around it. 1.5 hours. I'm not sure I'll get to do what I wanted to do today, but we'll try. So then this happens. Then this is a very strange scene here, right? So there's no floor here. Like I know she's bent down low in a stance and she stands up, but it doesn't read that way. It reads like there's no floor here, right? Now look at how her head and her collars and everything it's like the anatomy of the character is not, the chest is here, the rib cage is here, the head is here, right? And what you've done is it's like you've just kind of eliminated you've just done the Placey Tracy thing of just eliminating the middle section. What you want to do is you want to put a little bit of a shift of weight in one side if you can, and a shift in the other, and you want to make things, you don't want to be afraid of really, having this thing distort and squash, right? Let me just have the middle section here, right? So we want to make it bigger, right? We don't want to make it smaller. We don't want to keep it the same size. We want to make it bigger, right? Even if the head is looking down, you want to indicate those cheekbones, right? Let me thin my brush because it's just a little bit too fat to get the intricacies, right? So you've studied the skull, I know you have. So you need to have, you don't need to be afraid of having your nose from that angle, right? Your character isn't conventionally attractive, so you don't need to worry about those distortions. You can really push them, right? We need it to be bigger, right? We don't want it to be the same size, which is why people lose volume trying to keep volume. That's the thing. So, and also there's no squash and stretch on the belly, no division lines. I don't care how ripped you are or whatever, you're gonna have a little bit of so here, this is very strange. You know, even if you were to, like, her hips and legs are huge compared to her tiny hands, right? And then this gut doesn't, this gut is odd, right? So now it just grows up, and the angling and proportioning, everything is very flat. Very flat. It's almost like you're doing rigged work. You're sliding one bit up and sliding the other on a flat plane to create an illusion. It is 2D, but we want to change the shapes, all right? If she has a bust, we want to see, it can be a small bust, but we want to see the head, right? I suggest, Daniel, if you're into this kind of thing, there was a show called Aeon Flux in the 90s, which had this strange, almost grotesque, but appealing design to it, with very distorted characters. But I suggest you study that if you want to explore drawing in this way, in an appealing way, because at the moment it just feels like you're doing things. What it feels like, you know how to animate, because there's a lot of things that are working, like arcing, slowing in, slowing out, timing, but the drawing is very confused in the inconsistencies of the proportions of the character, which make it very, very awkward viewing. So while it feels like, as I said, it feels like it's done by somebody that knows how to animate, but at the same time it feels very awkward.
Falcon punch.
So you got all of the nice follow through and overlap on the hair in the wind, but and you got the styming and slowing in and slowing out and the little bit of vibrate. So it's all good. The weight and the landing is good, but all of these strange irregularities of where she's standing, why is she getting small and big, and it just feels very awkward in that regard. So those are my thoughts, but thank you so much for sharing that, Daniel Garcia. Now, a lot of things that I've been saying here to you, Daniel, might make you be feeling a little bit overwhelmed and deflated. And you should know that that's not why I gave you that talk, right? So I'm gonna, like, it's 1 hour 33 and we haven't done what I said I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna, we're gonna try. What you have to understand, what's happening in your life, Daniel, is exactly the same as what's happening in my life, but we're just at different stages, right? I created a short called Little Red, right? And you created this short, right? Now, Little Red to many people was amazing. Some people thought I traced Beauty and the Beast. Some people thought, but it was the first time. I'd worked 20 years in the animation business, Daniel, as you know, as head of story, animation director, supervisor, all those things. But I'd never made my own little short. Never. I did actually with the Santa Claus thing, but not full color and all that. Trying to make something, right? Off screen. That thing was on screen. Never done it, right? Neither had you, right? Now, I've got a lot more experience than you, which is why Little Red may have looked better, but there were things that I didn't like about it, and things that I learned from it that I'm implementing today as I'm making Alpha Man, right? Or the Groundhopper. I'm implementing. So this thing is now, it didn't happen. You know, what I wanted to do with it didn't work. It could have been considered a failure by some, right? I certainly don't. But what I'm putting in this project 100% could never have been done without this experience. So Daniel, what I'm trying to tell you here is this has been a very important step to your greatness, my friend, right? So we don't dwell on things. We don't linger on things. What you have done, what most people never do, Daniel, and this is what I say, and I want people who, okay, those of you who know me, what do I say excellence is, right? What is excellence? Right? What is excellence? Daniel, you are one of the very few people I personally know, even from people in the industry, who have had no motivation in terms of their money or anything. You have what we call a commitment. I don't know how to spell it, sorry. Commitment to completion, right? You have what we call a commitment to completion. You started something, and in the comments you mentioned, you noticed you're a better artist now, your drawing shouldn't be like this or that or the other, but you saw it through, right? And that's why in my mind, Daniel, you're a winner, right? That you're going to win, right? You really are winning in life, because it's those people who never give up, those people who persist, and those people who are willing to take risks, and those people who are comfortable with getting things wrong, that are the winners, right? They're the winners. The losers in life, Daniel, are too afraid, right? I'm going to make my face big on the screen. I'm going to talk directly to you with a lot of love, because I love you, man. You did great work. You are not afraid to do what is necessary that needs to be done, right? You're not afraid. Most people in life, I don't want to call anybody a loser, but let's say in terms of their goals, most losers in life are too afraid to even try, right? So you, my friend, have done a really good job with this piece of work. So everything I've said to you in terms of helping you move forward is things that you can do practically, but you're already a winner and you already have what it takes. I'm telling you, that's what I believe. Because it's not easy to do what you just did. That's amazing work. Really is. Well done. All right, now, I don't know how much time I'm going to have to do what I was planning to do, but we're going to try. We've been 1.5 hours in. Before I start doing that, I'm going to read some of your comments. Mr. Leon is here. Lex, thank you so much. I really appreciate the support. Awesome, Silver Tunes. Clex, do you need to subscribe or something to get critiques, or how does this work? Okay, I don't guarantee critiques. I have a Real Animator training library which people have bought into, and even then I don't critique, because I may as well talk about it now, okay? And then I'll talk about the free groups, because I critiqued somebody who was not even a member of my library. So if you're trying to second guess me, I'm not saying buy my library and I'll critique your work, because no way. I'll tell you why no way in a minute. Let me just change my screen. So if you go to ambanimation.com, I have what's called a Real Animator Training Library. And this, I've spent 7 years of my life creating, sharing everything I know in various archives, right? So if we click join now, you can see that it's divided into, so here I'm critiquing a Disney animator. You can watch this video, by the way. It's a lot of fun. Somebody who animated on Peter Pan 2 joined my library, and I was giving them some feedback on some completely irrelevant personal work, right? That's just I'll go into that in a minute, right? But you want to know, you've got to bear with me. So there's 2 sections to the training library. There's the training archives, which have these step-by-step training videos that you're supposed to follow. We have basics, we have intermediate, we have advanced, we have anatomy, we have got seminars and professional lectures, right? So if we just quickly look at the professional lectures archive, which is the most advanced archive, we already talked about these 7 videos where I talk about storytelling and storyboarding. So there's about 8 to 9 hours of storyboarding instruction. We also have a advanced we also how to animate an intro music video, how to storyboard an introduction or an animated intro or music video, and that spans over 14 parts, right? So you've got over 14 hours worth of instruction on that. We've also got advanced dialogue, right? How to animate long, sustained 30-second dialogue in one shot with pure, subtle acting, right? And that goes on for 9 parts. So we've got a professional lectures archive, but in order to get to that level, you probably need to be doing all the other stuff. We also have what we call edutainment archives, which are much like the stuff you see me doing on YouTube, where you can learn, but it's not really structured training. Now, why don't I give feedback? I'll tell you why. Because I have people who have paid $180,000 to CalArts, which is the best, so-called best animation school in the world, in the US, and they have come off that degree and joined my training library, right? I've had people who've given Don Bluth $10,000 of their hard-earned money, yet after finishing his course, they come to me. I have people who have worked on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and people who have worked for Disney. One of them is in the chat right now. His name is Mr. Leon. They have also joined my training library. Now, how much do they pay for this? They pay the price of an iPad Pro. Some of these archives cost cost the same as a pair of Nike sneakers, right? So you can get this kind of animation training that people are paying hundreds of thousands for, and they're still wanting to come to me to learn more. You can get that for the price of an iPad Pro, a gaming laptop, or a pair of Nike sneakers in some regards. So something's got to give. Me giving you feedback, you haven't paid for that, right? Because that'll be the amount of members I have. That'll be like me working round the clock, and an iPad Pro's price doesn't cut that much of my time, right? So why do I give feedback? I'm very much interested in the people who join my training library. So that's the training library. If you're interested in joining that, go ahead, right? It'll do you the world of good. So I have a group on Facebook called Real Animator Growth, Development and Progress, right? Now, I don't have 4,000 members in my training library. Believe me, if I did, I'd be a multi-millionaire, right? So we have 4,000 members in this free group on Facebook. Now, this group was originally designed as a group where library members can create their own community and share their work. And I would come in and I would, on my YouTube live streams, look for, rather than having topics all the time given to me, my live streams were community. So I would say, let's have a look at some of the work in this. But then more people wanted to join, non-library members who are interested in hand-drawn animation. And my mission in life is to help the craft of hand-drawn animation as a whole, to bring it back to its great quality, because it's really poor. It's in a really poor state right now. So, for example, we get somebody like Kim Jones joining. She may never join my library, but if she shows me her work, I think Kim could be a boy or a girl, I don't know, so excuse me, I'm guessing it's a girl, so excuse me if you're a guy. This work shows me that this person really cares about their work, and I feel that vibe. And if I have some time on my hands and I'm doing a YouTube live stream, I'm going to give some of my time to this person. So that's how it works. So if somebody is just sharing stuff like, there's an example. Yeah, this, like this, for example, I'm not going to really, because it looks like they're playing with software and they don't really care about drawing or improving themselves or the craft of animation, and they just perhaps want Insta follows and Insta likes. I could be wrong, but that's the vibe I get from that. So my time is very precious to me, but I give it to people who show me that as if their time is also precious, and they spend a lot of it drawing and animating, not watching other people's work and gushing over it, right? So this is that's how feedback works. Whenever I can on these live streams, I give it. Now, I'm not going to pretend I don't prioritize my library members, because after all, you know, this whole place, my YouTube channel, everything exists because of my Real Animator training library. That's what pays the bills. So they get first goal. Now, if you go to the feed, this is free for anybody to join. You have to answer the questions. If you don't, you won't be able to join, because we don't want bots and spammers in this group. You also get free training from the training library. You simply go to the featured and go to Real Animator Training Preliminaries, and you click on that, and you copy the password and you paste the password in, and there it is. You've got 9 free lectures from the training archive. If you're interested in trying before you buy, or you just want the free lectures, you've got that right there. Okay, now I've got 1 hour left. So the feedback is, you got to join the Facebook community for that. I love animating on paper. I feel more engaged. Yep, darn right. Paper is king. What do you think of the future of 2D animation? The future of 2D animation is bright, because real artists are always in the world. If you're interested in software, then AI is going to do away with you, and you deserve it, because you're not an artist. That's what I think, Mohammed. So thank you for that question. I'm only concerned with real artists and real animators. Real artists and real animators do not need to fear anything, because AI has got nothing to do with them. AI has absolutely nothing to do with you drawing and animating. AI is only going to affect people who can't draw and can't animate. Thank you so much for the donation to the usual suspect. I'm very, very appreciative of that. If anybody else wants to donate, the link is in the description. So AI is basically pointless. It has nothing to do with the future of 2D hand-drawn animation. If you're talking about the industry, AI has always been around. the day Pixar started animating, for me, that was what I called automation. Because many of those animators would simply move a character up and down, and all the wind dynamics and muscle dynamics and facial, if the wind is flapping and his teeth and gums are showing from his cheeks going everywhere, all computer dynamics, pre-animated AI. So anybody playing around with silly 2D rigs like Toon Boom, Harmony, garbage, trash, I love AI because AI has put them to bed, and hopefully that's the last they'll ever see of them, and they won't be disgracing the name of 2D animation, and it can go back to the artists and the real people who draw. So that's the future. Is very bright. We're going to be seeing real artists producing 2D animation again, whereas the cowards who were just looking for an easy ride are going to be replaced by the machine, and they can go and stack shelves or think about what they want to do with their life. I wish them the best, but please never consider yourself to be animators without learning to draw, because nothing in life that's worth doing is unearned. So they had it for a little while. They should be grateful. Bye-bye. AI. Beautiful. Doing away with them. Right, okay. So, The Tale of Despero and my name was in the credits. Yes, it was indeed. Right. So I was going to originally break down some milk cow. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that because... let's do it for an hour. Let's see how far I get with an hour with this. Let me just see. Yes, you can see my screen. Okay, so this is my favorite milk cow character of all time, and I'm gonna be super fast, I imagine. Right, so let's start. I'm gonna start. I said pose to pose animation, but I'm gonna start as usual by looking at the silhouette. So this will also bring in the whole shape thing, right? So I'm really interested in shapes, right? So again, you see how when I was doing that hand example for that person who animated the hands on paper, you see how I'm just looking at the first two poses in silhouette, right? Now I'm going to go to the last pose, right? The last pose that I'm going to do. Man, I love this. I love this animation. Right, so then we're going to go to the last pose, right? So the last pose is this. So I'm going to look at the silhouette, the shape. Again, Daniel Garcia, he's done all this. So it's in your subconscious, Daniel. You may feel that you were not putting into practice all of the things that I'd asked you to do to help you draw, improve your drawing. But it's in your subconscious. And one day it's just going to click all there. But you see, I'm still doing it, Daniel, right? So I'm focusing on the silhouette of the last pose. Now, in here is just shapes within shapes. Also to Kim, that walk cycle, you love the drawing and it can be seen, but a few little things are causing you to have a little bit of unprofessional quality to your structure and your anatomy and things. So by studying other artists and seeing the way they cheat anatomy and put anatomy in there, you got to know anatomy first to do it. But so these are the first two poses, right? So I'm just going to do these first. These are the two extremes, right? So this thing is all about pose to pose and straight ahead. So I'm going to chop. I'm going to go and I'm going to really very quickly. I'm going to try and do this in an hour. So I'm not going to be as... I wanted to make really nice drawings of it, but I've just got to be kind of quick here. So So in this shape, we're going to start putting in the features. So this is what is studying silhouette, shape simplification, and filling the positive shape that we've made with other shapes. And we're kind of seeing, and it really helps your hand-eye coordination as you're doing it, right? As a form of study, right? So we've got the other eyebrow there, and this eyebrow here like this. His hair comes here like that. I love this character. It's called Sir Hector. They call him Hector because in the British Cockney is like Hector, Hector, and people have written Sir Hector, and maybe they even wrote that down as well. But it's the Arthurian character was Sir Hector, I would have thought. Look how that ear, everything is in line in here, just a simple shape, puts the ear in the back there like that. What I also like is the neck flab, right, which creates this really nice. Now look at the armor, so simple but so effective. We simply have his head being cut off here, this huge round shape of his chest. Look at how just this shape signifies this pompous personality. You see the simplicity of it. Everything is being told with such few lines. You know, this is what I consider real mastery. His hands are behind his back. This guy is one of the, this guy can really draw. And that shows because how confident he is with just making such a simple shape. But it says so much. It says so much more than so many far more complicated drawings. Look at the personality in his chest. Now, I've chose to do this particular scene because when I was a little kid, and even as an adult, it's stuck in my mind the way he would look to the camera and say, "Now look here, boy. Now look here, boy." And I would laugh and laugh. And I thought, I'm going to take a look at that today. So, right, let's move on to the last frame and look at how these two frames relate, right? So now here we've got the line of his hairstyle here like this. Now I'm just coming in with his hair. So you can start anywhere when you do it this way, right? It's all about hand-eye coordination, and he's framing his eye with a triangle. This is just beautiful stuff, right? So when I was telling Daniel you got to have stuff to read composition-wise, even within the character, which is a huge shape looking to the screen, he's got one eye open, and he's looking in this threatening manner towards the boy. And he's really complementing that eye by framing it with a triangle right there like that. Then the other eye is closed, right? So this comes in here. Now what I absolutely love, again, a lot of people hate Pablo Picasso and they say, why is he so rated, right? Well, let me tell you, we 2D animators owe so much to him. I hate the modern style of 2D traditional drawing where they're trying to draw it like a CG model and they're trying to make the nose a front view nose. This is a square on drawing, but he's got a 3/4 nose, right? It's a cubist thing. He's put the nose in there, and for me the nose is so appealing, right? So I'm just gonna put a bit more that. So you can see how these two drawings are relating, right? So here we've got a bit of the cheek and the mustache coming here like this. I bloody love this character. It's just my favorite Milt Kahl character of them all is this guy. It's difficult between him and the Sheriff of Nottingham from Robin Hood. I do love that character as well, but I've got to just slightly edge it to Sir Hector because there's less reuse with Sir Hector. So we see more glorious acting with Sir Hector. So we have the round armor. You see how everything is existing within this circle. We're squashing and stretching its head in that armor. And then we've got the ear on this side and a bit of the hair there and the round armor coming in there. Look at how that just fits in there. Now we've got the massive we've got this massive thumb coming towards us, right? Again, Daniel, your drawing style was very different to this, but the rules are the same. Don't look how big this guy's hand and everything is getting towards the screen. Now I'm gonna figure out the perspective of the sword, right? So we've got the sword, which is just this shape like this, the hilt of the sword coming straight like that. And he's really it's kind of broken off there like this, right? And that's a bit strange, but it works. What he's done, you don't notice it in the animation. Then we've got a bit of the hand here like this. Bit of the sleeve. So huge foreshortening here, the armor coming up over the head there like that, and the armor coming off the edge there like that. So we've got something like this. Right, so these are the first and last. How are we doing for time? Congrats, you managed what peer pressure in my teenage years didn't make me make a Facebook account. Well, that's what I say. I mean, if people want to miss out on all these things because they think they're being surveillanced and they're being watched, just understand every time you're looking at your phone, there's a camera on there, there's a mic on there, and if people were watching you, they already are, right? So there is now we're gonna find out a midway, like I'm gonna find out my mid pose. So we go hair to hair to hair to hair, right? So I'm gonna have this pose here, right? So that's gonna be my breakdown point. Not a breakdown, but another extreme, right? So we're gonna have I'm just gonna look at the shapes. So I'm seeing this, right? I'm seeing this. And this is in line with the head, so I'm balancing it all. Man, I love Milk Coal hands so much, right? Then this is like this. So let me turn off the light box. We're gonna look at these two things here. All right, I'm gonna move that just a little bit there like that. So let's begin. So this shape that I see here, right, is his hairline, right? And just look at the squash and stretch that happens here. It's just incredible. So he opens one eye, and the other eye closes. So we're almost on this expression here, right? So I can use this last thing to, so we get to this expression already here, right? Like this. This is how we really manage, you know, you see me do a straight ahead breakdown, but now you're seeing me really picking out the extremes. Before I even look for keys, I'm looking for extremes. Now the other great thing is how the mustache just really complements the shape of the character. So the mustache comes down like this, his mouth is here. There's real squash going on in his cheek, right? That. Let's just make that bottom lip more readable, right? What a walrus of a character, just incredible. You see how now this shape becomes the hairline, right? So we have that, and we put the round on top, and then we just put the flicks of hair up like that, and there we get the simplicity of the follow-through overlap. So again, Kim, you had a lot of awkward hair bouncing on your walk. So what'll be nice for you to think about is really breaking down those those hairs, even though it's a furry animal, into separate chunks of really simple, clean, manageable shapes. And you can do that by studying artists like this and seeing how they have managed that. Now we're going to go straight down here, right? But we're going to have a bit of a cheek coming here with the neck flab, right? Just like this. Well, we're going to have this thing is going to, now we're taking this part of the armor and we're rotating it, right? We want to keep the volume of this big chest with the center line here like this. Got to think about this thing. So I'm thinking about the mass and the weight here like this as I'm looking at this shape. Now because I'm doing it in a trying to figure it out from a breaking down standpoint, where I'm not necessarily going in a straight ahead manner to get a clean flow from one frame to the next, I'm having to really kind of try to reanimate it in some regards, because my arcs won't be, because I'm not studying the arc. The point of this breakdown is not, I will study arcs. You can't not study arcs when you're dealing with animation. But the purpose I'm focusing on is the keyframes, the keys, the poses, the pose to pose process, which is, I'm trying to figure out what the extreme frames are. Now this hand is really nice because there's an unevenness to the evenness of the way these knuckles are simple, got these additional lines, and the space is balanced, right? So we're going to have a very square finger here like this, right? But then with a curl, and the fingernail is going to go the other way, which is really going to give it some volume. It's a beautiful, beautiful hand. So So we're going to have the arm probably here like this. You can really see where Don Bluth got his shapes from. Right, so we have the sword shape back on us like that. How am I doing for time? Okay, 2 hours in. Absolutely, we can see the form. Mama Maria, thank you for the comment, but the software is not really important. You know, thanks to AI, people who use software are becoming redundant, right? I'm using traditional hand-drawn animation techniques, and that's what's important. But thank you for commenting and giving me the opportunity to mention that. The software is not going to make you be able to do what I'm doing right now. But the things I'm explaining, and looking for those things when you do the hard work and study yourself, that will. Right? I understand that there's also a sense of love and affiliation. I want to use what he's using because I respect him so much. Thank you, but that doesn't matter. You are using what I'm using when you're using real traditional hand-drawn animation techniques. You're using the power of your amazing brain and your love and passion for art, right? We don't care about software, and we never will. So that's that frame, right? So we have these three. So I'm going to find the next one between here and here now and see what happens. Okay, so let's have a look. So he comes in, up, and down. Very interesting, very interesting. So I'm going to have to do it in 2 stages. So first and foremost, as he comes down just before he comes up, right? So he comes, I'm looking at the arc, right? So we're gonna move that. I'm just gonna take one more look at the arc. I'll tell you what I'm doing, which is what's important to me. Okay, right, yes. Now I'll tell you why I fiddled around a bit, right? So, remember how I said we framed that eye with this, right? And we've got that same thing here, right? So, I'm not going to just put it in the middle like that, right? No way, right? So, it comes here. It comes here to this side, right? So this now comes, in fact, I'm going to push it more, right? Like this. And I'm going to turn off that light box. That gets wider. That gets smaller. The arm comes out like this. The finger gets bigger. This neck. You see how I'm doing the armor thing as an ellipse now? As we come. Oh yeah. I'm beginning to see it now. I'm beginning to see the way it's working. Right. Beautiful. So we're gonna keep the shape of the head here. Look actually how it creates this shape, but we just got into it like that. Right, amazing. So let's get on with this. So we have the hair come down over his head like that. Like this. The thing is when I really want to help people, some people take it as me having a bad attitude because I'm not giving them the answer they want. Well, the way to learn is to ask the right questions, right? If you're asking about software, you're never going to be a good animator, right? And you don't know how to animate already. If you know how to animate and you want to fiddle around with the latest gadgets, okay. But if you really don't know how to draw and animate properly and you're asking about software, you're never going to get anywhere. Never. Unless you want to just sit back and type it into AI and let AI do it all for you, and then feel happy for 5 seconds and then pretty empty afterwards. Right, so just working out my arcs here as I'm starting to break down a bit more. I'm just working out the placement of things before I draw and explain to you. That's so cool how that head shape is. His ear comes in there. Interesting. Right, okay, let's draw this in. So where arcing, you can see like there's a path, like an arc like this. It doesn't come directly down, and there's a reason, right? You could have him come directly down, but there's so much more to this animation than what it's just a guy looking towards the screen, right? It's really good acting, and you'll see as I keep going. Now this nose is slanted more. Look at the cubism. Look at how he's looking straight on at us, but the nose is a 3/4 almost profile nose, right? And that's how we transition and go from a front view to a side view. And the character looks great. It doesn't look off. It looks perfect, right? If you tried to give him a round circle and imagine what it was like if it was a 3D model, it would look so ugly by comparison. And that's what I believe today's Disney-esque characters are. When you compare them to these guys, they're ugly by comparison. Too much obsession with trying to look 3D. This is pure 2D art, right? Drawing on masters like Picasso and the research he did to form the Cubist, to forward the Cubist movement. I'm not sure if he formed it himself. And it's really important to understand these things because that's part of the illusion. So we're coming here like this. Now we've got the ear. Now I'm gonna make a bit more sense out of this hair. So this triangle shape is what really makes us focus on that eye. So the whole thing of exaggeration and appeal, what makes this acting so much fun is as we're looking at it unfold before us, we're not aware that we're looking at a, some people might say the Illuminati symbol here, but it's not. That's not why he did it, right? The enlightened symbol of the cornerstone, the eye in the pyramid, right? When we're looking at that, we're framing an eye in a triangle, and that eye is glaring at us, and we're looking straight at that, and we're watching it project its path, its arc, right? So now we have this. Let's just color that in so it reads, right? We've got this. And his other ear is here, and his shoulder actually comes back up like that. Then this slowly comes down like that. Watch the shape. This becomes more of a rounded shape, like this. This should be shaded in a little bit, I think. Help that read. There we go. Now he's wagging his finger, which is awesome. The finger doesn't necessarily change size too much. But you see how we get to the end position like that with not much. It's not, we're not halfway, we're not going halfway in. He's coming, he's easing in on what we call thirds, right? Thirds of the way. We got this like this. That just goes there. Like he's got this weird part of the hand that doesn't even work, but the hand looks so good, right? That's what I love about this guy. He makes shapes, right? Just something that Daniel Garcia, whose film we looked at earlier, could well factor in. Now he studied, I had him studying some milk cow, so it's all there in his subconscious, but don't be afraid of, you know, changing things, changing the size of things, right? So now we're going from there. Now I'm going to find another one out. Brilliant, right? Brilliant, right? So the next one between here and here comes up and he gets bigger. I need to watch that arc. Yeah, that eye and that nose come right up. So I need to really pay attention to that. Now I'm more, rather than trying to make a copy so much of the drawing as I did with the first few frames, I'm making sure that my arcs are really in the correct place. We really want to feel the rise of the character as he rises up. That ellipse is super important to get right. Perfect. So you see the up down going on. We're not just simply, it's getting bigger and bigger. slowly getting bigger, figuring out the fist goes back on itself. He's anticipating the fist back so he can really bring it in down there. You'll see it's a bit vague with my scratching at the moment, but you'll see it. How am I doing for time? 2 hours 10. What's your opinion in the workflow trying to get the spacing of shapes down before doing the features and details? Okay, well, when you become, the thing is it's what I say, the real animator training motto is you got to be real with yourself, really real with yourself. You got to get real before you can be real, right? And what that means is you got to be 100% honest with yourself, not around how you look to other people or not what you think. So with me, my drawing is now at the level where the shapes and the drawing are just one, right? But for many years, it wasn't the case. I would have to do shapes, and then when I felt comfortable with shapes, I would then do anatomy over the shapes, and then when I felt comfortable with the anatomy over the shapes, I would then do the garments, the drapery and everything over the shapes. And that all took time. It all, and I wanted to be I wanted to be like what I am now, right? What you're seeing on the screen now, it looks like I'm just illustrating and animating, right? I'm just looking at somebody else's work, so it's not quite, it's not quite the same as doing my own work. But even when I do my own work, I rely less and less on construction, and I'm able to just do it animate like I'm animating. It would seem like I'm animating an illustration. But that's not, like I've said many times on these live streams, at the moment, I'm not doing anything, Kim. If it's Kim who asked me the question, I'm just observing my hand and my subconscious doing all of the trained work, right? And talking to you while I'm doing it, while we're observing it together. So that's why I'm at that stage now, but it takes time to get to that stage, and it's where we all want to be. So if your work is struggling, if you're struggling or you find it like certain things challenging at this present stage, and those challenging things aren't the performance and the genuine acting and getting a tear out of yourself when you're watching the performance, and it's more, oh, this feels off, or this drawing is awkward, or my anatomy is bad, then you need work. You need to really just focus on drawing the shapes and not doing the part that you enjoy, not drawing the character. Really get to the grip of really being able to have X-ray vision to see beneath all of the things, which is why I like to do studies like this, because it helps you analyze, and it helps train your brain to see in shapes. And that's what you probably need to focus on. You need to focus on doing shapes so well that you instinctively, whether you're drawing something cartoony or whether you're drawing something naturalistic, you're basically seeing everything as really simple shapes that you can put shapes within those simple shapes. You can add to those shapes, and it'll all come together perfectly because those shapes that you're moving in space, in 2D space, are creating such a perfect illusion of multi-dimensional space. You know, I always say what I like about real hand-drawn animation is we are 2D, but we create the illusion beyond 3D, right? Like what's happening with this drawing here, as I pointed out about the cubist nose, is he's dealing with a 2D image, but he's going beyond the illusion of 3D by completely defying the laws. And we're looking at a square-on image of a character whose nose would never be like that if he was in 3 dimensions, right? And it's okay. It works perfectly, right? So I'm not saying that I'm at the level where I'm here right now with you guys studying somebody who I really look up to, right? And it never ends, right? If I was to stop doing push-ups and pull-ups today and to eat food and sleep, and even if I wasn't overindulging, I would become pretty flabby and pretty unfit pretty quickly, right? So it's the same thing with animation. Even when you're really good and you're doing your own art and you're a superb artist, you should never stop studying, and you should never stop working the fundamentals, because those things can very quickly get lost as you're getting indulged in whatever particular project you're working on, where one project may be particularly strong in some areas but very, very weak or underdeveloped in other areas. Right now, what I've been working on is environment and concept design, which requires now you see I've made an error here, but I'm just going to keep it like that, but which requires a lot of perspective drawing and understanding of structure of non-organic humanoid or animal things, which are my strength, right? So I'm learning more, and it's helping me with my other drawing as well. It really is. It's helping me with being able to accurately see and being more definite with my lines, right? So here we see he's coming up and going down again, right? So now I'm gonna look for another ooh, that's good. So he comes down in this position here, and then we continue to arc into it. All right, so from hair to hair, we're then going to bring him down, and the arc of the eye is going to be about here. So here's where the change up occurs, and he becomes super big, right, on the screen. His hand comes down, the sword and the thumb is thrust in here like this. Okay. Right, and there's so much other stuff happening, but I'm not sure if I'll have time to break this scene down the way I want it to, but let's just do what we can. Let's just do the main points. So this eye is arcing this way now, right? So it's here and it goes this way and then this way, right? And we're gonna have we got to think about that triangle, right, of the eye. Now I'm going to use this one more so than the other one, right? Because this is how we do our pose to pose animation. As we have our extremes, the extremes which we are closer to become our point of reference when we're flipping forwards and backwards between frames, right? Notice how my light box is only on when I'm just trying to verify the direction of my arc. My light box is not used to maintain form and volume. Again, rookie beginner mistake is using a light box to maintain form and volume, thinking that that's what it's there for, right? The way we really get nice animation is nice arcs, and then we maintain form and volume by watching the shapes changing between the extremes and keys, right? I'm putting in what we call keyframes at the moment between the extremes. This mustache comes out open now like this. This is such an awesome look at the expression on this character, man. It's just the double chin is hilarious. It's so loose and so scratchy but so perfect. The shape choices that he makes. Again, this hair is just bunched up into, when you look at the individual bunching, it's quite stiff looking, but when you watch it move, it's so loose, so full of life. Now we've got this, which actually is this shape. And the ear comes here like that. I'll look at the chat in a minute and see if there's any more questions. But the face is the thing I'm really focusing on because it's just so appealing. Right now we've got the armor, which creates this shape. The ear is here. The arm is at the back there like that. Okay. Creates that shape. There. Now this has come central. Now I need to be looking at these two. Right, this is the one. So now I'm going to be looking at this thumb. So here we've just got a shape like that for the thumb, and just by the placement of the nail we're able to give it some volume. Now the sword in itself is, let's see, is broken, so it's creating this shape. He's pointing it towards us. My thumb is out of the way there, a little bit off. So you can see how we've divided it. This one is 1/3 closer to this one. And this one is 1/3 closer to this one. So then that's how we do it. And then he's put a lot of little head bobs and head nods that are his, that's his way of acting, which I love, between those third spaces. But I'm not going to be focusing on that because we spent a long time looking at people's work today. I didn't expect to be looking at the projects, but a lot of hard work has been done by the people in the group, so I want to spend that time doing that. This is actually bad on my part. I don't normally like to do this, but that needs to be there, right? Like that. Okay, so how are we doing for time? Before we go any further with this, even the 9 old men use reference. Yep. Begrudgingly, of course. No, don't begrudgingly. References are super important. Milt liked to show off. Milt had an ego. He liked to say, I don't, you need reference. Not everybody's a Milt Carl, so those guys need reference and all that. But I'm telling you, had he never used reference, I don't care who he is, how great he is, he would never have understood the naturalistic movements. He trained his brain via reference. We all train our brain via reference. We're all, this is a very, I think this kind of silly mentality. Right, now, there's another very important frame that I'm going to talk about, right between hair and hair, right? Let me just watch what happens to the body there. Yeah, the body goes down, comes back up. Yeah, more or less in the same area. So, between hair and hair, there's a nice little piece of secondary action, right? So, we're going to focus on that. I'm going to turn off the next panel, no next panel. A little bit of movement we will have there, I imagine. Not too much. I'll bust this chest out just a little bit. There, because it's all going to go down and back up. This is what really makes the animation, right? And this is something that I love to include in my animation, and I only really started doing it after studying Milt Kahl. And no matter what my scene I'm doing, I always, no matter what the character's doing, I always like to do these tiny anticipations and secondary movements before we do our main movement, and that's what this is. But this one is not tiny. Right, this is absolutely great. So he's gonna take a little look to us. Did I tell you how much I love this character? Right, so the mustache is gonna be there. So this anticipatory look is what really makes this acting work. And there's a little bit of acting before he even looks, but I've had to kind of skip that. Just drawing it makes me laugh. Just absolutely love this. No, look here, boy. We all know somebody like this guy in our life, I tell you. We've all met him. All right. I'm going to draw it in a little bit more. It's important I draw it in so you can see the little touches, because there's a beautiful, this is a beautiful head turn. These guys, like everybody likes some of the videos that I put on my channel that are the most popular is how to animate a head turn, right? And we do the usual basic head turn and all that. But this guy, you know, even a tiny little like secondary action, little anticipation movement that this guy does is just one of the best head turns, and it's pure squash and stretch. You'll see in a minute. Well, in a bit more than a minute. I'm drawing fast, but perhaps not fast enough, right? But you'll see. It's just beautiful. So this this little glance, right, leads to such a nice head turn. Actually, I brought him up, but as I'm drawing this guy, again, I resent using this thing, but I'm running out of time, and I want to get the squash and stretch right. I brought his head up because I thought he lifted his head, but he didn't lift it as much as I thought he did. And as it's not my animation and I'm making a study, I want to get it right. So, but I will stress, if you're not on a live stream, trying to get through things quickly, because it's almost 4 o'clock and I haven't even had my dinner yet. I haven't even had breakfast, right? And you're just in your own time, I highly stress you don't use those software shortcuts. You draw and take it as an opportunity to draw. Okay, so my guy here turns his head like this, right? But it's the way the way he gets from this to this. That's what I want you to see. Is using reference footing to learn animation bad? Do you think I'm bad? It's the only way, you know. How do you learn? How can you learn anything, right? You're trying to move, you're trying to create movement. You don't know how something moves, you don't just make it up. That's what an idiot does. So trust me. It's not bad. It's the professional thing to do, right? It's the real thing to do. The people who don't use reference, they might think they're good, but you're hearing it from my mouth, they're shit. They don't know, right? And I'm not taking it back. When they can draw and animate like me, I still won't even listen, right? Because if they can even draw half and animate half to my level, then they'll be using reference, right? They'll have used reference. That doesn't mean I use reference all the time. It goes deeper than that, but because once you start studying anatomy, and you learn how anatomy works, you've built a reference library in your subconscious mind. So whenever I draw and animate, even if I say, look, I did it with no reference, that's all bullshit. Because I've spent years learning every bone and every muscle in the human body, watching how people walk, seeing how people move. So if I understand how the human body moves with a walk, and I make up my own run or walk or jump from that, I'm still using the reference from the things that I've learned. I'm still referencing my internal memory banks, right? Now look at this squash and stretch of this head turn. So right now I'm building reference for myself, right? Why am I looking at this guy's animation? I'm not just doing it for a cool live stream. I'm doing it for my own benefit as well. However great an animator I am, I don't think I can animate like Milk Carl just yet, right? So it's my goal to one day be able to animate to his standards, right? So I'm going to study him. I'm going to learn from him. That's not bad. That's called erasing ignorance. If somebody tells you that by using reference you're doing something bad, they're simply advocating ignorance and advertising ignorance. I got to remember that when we're drawing cartoons and things on YouTube, that I do have a young audience, and I sometimes can come across as a pump. I sometimes can come across like this man with a mustache. How dare you? You know, like, and I apologize for that, because I've spent my life learning animation, and it really is a high art for me to do it well. And I'm trying to teach people to do it like it's a high art and to do it well. And sometimes I forget, like I've been doing it for such a long time, that I do have people with younger mentality and younger mindset, where they're just finding their way in life, and we all want to prove ourselves in life, and we all want to feel like we're doing it right. And I totally understand that if your peer group is a bunch of young, ignorant kids who think they're somehow so good and so heroic because they made it up from their imagination and they didn't use reference, that really is ridiculous. It's foolish, it's childish, it's ignorant, and quite stupid. And there I go again, being very tactless. But I can't help it, because there's only a small amount of time in this day and age to get the message across, because everybody has such short attention spans, and you'll probably have forgotten everything you saw in this live stream, and you'll be watching the next thing on your feed, right? But if I can just, out of pure love, hurt your feelings a little bit so that you'll listen and I can get through to you, that's why I do it, right? Because I really want to get through to people, to help them make the significant changes in their life that they really need to make in order to move forward and to be really happy with themselves and be really happy with their work. If it means you hate me for a little while, or you have a bad feeling about me, that's okay. I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to help you love yourself and love your work, right? That's why I'm here. Well, that's what I'm here for. Because I'm not trying to be some pretentious altruistic person. No. I want hand-drawn animation to return to this level, this Milk Carl level, right? And I'm a messenger spreading the word, so that this art form I've dedicated my life to, that I love for, that I live for. It's why I'm here 4 o'clock in the afternoon, only having 1 cup of coffee this morning. I'm still here. I don't feel hunger, because everything is satisfied through the drawings that I'm making, right? And sharing that with you guys gives me such a buzz, right? Right now, I'm gonna break this down so we can see that we go like this, right? But I'm gonna break this down and have one more frame in here, which is really cool. So we're keeping that on thirds, right? I'm making sure my spacing is on thirds. To those of you who understand, amazing. I can't really talk about thirds right now because I really do just want to do this drawing, and we'll probably call it a day. Not that I'm particularly hungry right now, as I said, but I've got to go out to dinner tonight, and it's only a couple of hours away, so I'd better have a smoothie or something. Right, so let's put that in there. Right, so I'm just going to kind of loosely in between this bit myself and rush it and focus more on the facial features. Right. So he's looking towards camera, and we're creating that triangle shape in the eye. The nose is awesome down here like this. There's a bit of squash and stretch on the mustache. Right, that'll do. That'll do, right? Look at that head turn. It's so cool, right? Then we go into this. Now it could do with more breaking down, but those are enough. Those are the frames that I'm gonna do, right? I can't do any more because we spent too much of the stream before talking about it. So it would have been nice to do this kind of level of breakdown, which was my intention. I may do it off stream for myself to learn, but you can see how we got from hair to hair, right? How we got from hair to hair. We simply we put a little head turn here, a little bit of secondary action, an anticipatory look, so it's also anticipation and secondary action, right? Then we bounced up and down into it like a bouncing ball, right? So we came down, up, and down again, right? And the reason we do that is because he's going to be wagging his finger and wagging the sword and his finger in his hand while talking to the boy, telling him, right? So there's so much more to this, but we get this nice bouncy movement, so it isn't so straightforward, right? There's a beautiful up and down action going on in that. Let me just watch it on the playback there. Yeah, it looks good. Right? Okay, would have been nice to have taken that further, but I really do feel that the time is coming for the stream to be at an end. I'm going to have a quick look at some of these comments in here. Again, Kim, don't look back and don't look at the things that I've said is like to feel that you should have done this or you should have done that. The universe was meant for you to encounter me, for me to point out a few things for you to move forward without looking back. That what you did there was great. It served its purpose, just like what I said to Daniel. It needed to be done. Leave it. The next piece you're going to do is going to be even better, right? You've got more information. What do you think of using 2D on 3D animations? Listen, I do it. I've used 2D 3D hybrid. If that's what interests you, great. It doesn't excite me so much. I use the 3D more to, like back in the day they would rotoscope cars and miniatures for environments or vehicles. I would use 3D for that. I'm not so interested in using 3D. I'm not so excited about Beauty and the Beast 3D ballroom or the Wildebeest and the Lion King. I couldn't give a shit. I like proper hand-drawn. But it doesn't mean it's bad. It looks good. It heightens the storytelling. Treasure Planet. It's all good. If that's what you're interested in, that's what's important, what you think about it, right? Not what I think about it. Draw Fireheart getting a haircut, Blue Star and Longtail. They're warriors from the books series of cats. We'll look into that. We'll look into that. If I feel it's something that I can learn from, then I'll do it. If it's something that's that I feel will not benefit any of us, because you're actually watching me learn is a double whammy, because I'm studying to learn for myself, but I'm also sharing with you the things that I learn. If I'm studying something that is full of errors for me, or very weak or poorly done, then I don't want to be sharing those things with my audience. This place is all about improving our abilities, our skills, getting better. It's not so much of a jazza, wouldn't it be fun to do this fan art crossover kind of thing, right? You manage what? Okay, I remember that comment. I thought about, okay, I remember that. Love Justin, how in 2 frames you can see the mass and form. Awesome. Now look here, boy, indeed, Grayson, the best animation ever done. My favorite milk cow acting and line ever. Now look here, boy. I'm loving the triangular negative spaces, absolutely. Are you planning to attend the Animation Expo in Nashville? Not as of present. I'll be in the UK. I have not yet. I've worked for Universal Pictures. I've worked for Disney Junior, Nickelodeon, Sony Pictures. I've worked for all these big US companies, but I've never set foot in the US, right? I'm gonna do it one day. It's on the cards, and when I do, you'll all know about it, because I get so much love from people in the US. Most of my library members are from the US, I believe. So when I'm there, I will make sure it'd be great if I could meet some of you guys. Maybe we could do a sketchbook session or something. Just love Milt's style. Heard he wasn't really a character designer, but would take concept. Absolutely, because of his shapes. It's always a collaborative process. Whenever sometimes the people who aren't the best draftsmen have the most unique ideas. And then you give it to a draft. You look at the early Disney films. That's how great characters were put together. That's why it's taken me so long to design my characters, because I'm more of an animator. My designs had a appealing look, but they weren't really great designs, and over the years I've wrestled, I've studied, I've learned, and then I've tied those things in together. Now I feel I'm starting to design pretty good characters, right? Just because you can do one thing, it doesn't mean that you're going to do everything amazing. Okay, that's the workflow of getting the shapes. We covered that. That's the reference question. You're getting some nice answers from other people. There's no such thing as mindlessly copying when you're, when it depends what your intention is, right? The mindlessly copying people have AI now, so they don't care about using reference. Like, you wouldn't call it reference if you were mindlessly copying, right? Reference is reference to help you. Yeah, don't worry about the finished features. I know where you're. I've been through this journey myself. You know, I may not look it, but I'm almost 50, right? So I know what it's like to want to draw like a professional. I know what it's like to want to look at your work and feel you've drawn a professional drawing, and to not want to look at just simple shapes, however nice and fluid the arcs are, however beautiful you make those arcs move. You just want the fulfillment of seeing your drawing, your character. I really understand what it's like. But believe me, when I'm trying to help you guys, I'm winding back the clock, taking the little version of me, the 20-something version of me, and slapping him in the face and saying, just accept that for a little bit, because you'll be happy a whole lot faster, right? Get the fundamentals right, get used to them, and then it'll happen a whole lot faster for you. Trust me. Exactly, Rusty Rebels. My pleasure, Grayson. I fail to understand how you go about pacing myself. Would you like me to post? No, what I meant was pacing yourself with doing work. Posting doesn't matter, Grayson. You know you've done the work. I'm an external. I'm a firm believer in as within, so without. Not as without, so within. Right? I am outside of you. I'm actually within you, but I don't want to get too philosophical. I'm outside of you as you're watching me right now in this slow vibration world, right? But you know, as you observe yourself doing the work, nobody else needs to see that. You know how much you're doing, you know what you're doing, and you know why you're doing it. These bloody things, they're great for if you want to be an entrepreneur and do business and forward your work like that, but these bloody things have really ruined the progress of artists and people trying to learn art, because it becomes, there's a innate, you know, most artists are attention starved, and they feel underappreciated, and they want love. We all by default want love the minute we're born, and these things are like the devil. I will give you love, just keep posting, one day somebody will like it and it'll give you that little hit. Nobody really cares, all right? What really matters is the work that you know you're doing. That's what I mean. Don't pacing yourself for posting. If that I need to post and show people what I've done, if that's giving you anxiety and pressure, just do away with it, right? What you do behind closed doors is what really matters, not what other people see. Never feel bad using references. Feel bad for the people who aren't using reference. I've animated, just watch my YouTube. It feels like I never use reference. I'm pretty sure we all know that there's no point in pretending there's not another good animator on the YouTube called Aaron Blaze. We all watch him. It feels sometimes he doesn't use reference. Every great person you watch, you feel they're not using reference. They've studied. They're using reference from their memory banks. And when I'm a great martial artist, I can animate martial artists from martial arts from my imagination. Guess why? Because I've spent 20 years, even more probably. I've even got to an instructor level, so I can even make up a fight in my head. You know, like you can have somebody block and punch like this, or you can change and make it like a bar fight where you do the same thing, but you instead of doing that, you just do that, right? Like you just throw your, but I can imagine it all in my head because I know that. But ask me to animate ballroom dancing, I need reference. I need to go and look. I need to make sketches from it. I need to study it because I've never done it. I don't have a clue how it's done. And guess what? When I do things, I want it to be good. I want it to look correct. I don't want to say, and I made it up all from my head. Yeah, bloody looks it, mate. It's fucking shit. Think about how silly it is to not use reference. Reading a book right now about Arthurian law. Awesome. It's all hermeticism. So much hidden hermeticism in all of these things. Snow White, the white pure Kundalini energy going up the 7 chakras to get you into the heavenly mental state, you know, and the poison apple being the left brain of the serpent. All this story, even King Arthur and his knights of the round table, the square that has no corners, the sword in the stone, again, removing that hey Mega Man, AI animation is a parasite for the industry. No, I don't believe it is. I believe it's just cleansed the industry of all the people who didn't deserve to be in it. I don't care how that sounds. I used to be part of the industry, but I walked away from it because it was no longer a place for real artists. It was no longer a place for real animators. It was a place for button pushers and people who look for the easy cutting corners. There used to be a time when we used to like staying late in the office whether we were paid or not because we loved to draw and we wanted to do a good job. We didn't unionize because we felt we were underpaid from pushing software around, from mindlessly sliding shapes in and out of one another with silly little bounces while using a mouth reference for flashing library to some chatty, shitty dialogue. No, AI is cleansing the industry of all of those idiots, and they never belonged there in the first place. I don't care how mean that sounds. That's my view. It's because of them we don't have good hand-drawn animation anymore. It's because of them Disney stopped making hand-drawn films. It's because of them they thought they could do quick rehashes of their hand-drawn animated films in live action, as if it was even live action. They're still going to do it because that's the mentality of the men in suits. The artists were the only people who were bringing any kind of quality to the industry anyway, because they had integrity. They were harder to manage. The men in suits needed them. They don't need artists now. And they've lowered it's like when you're living in a room and there's a dead mouse in the house. Your cat's killed a mouse, you can't find it. First few days you smell the mouse, then you don't smell it. You get used to it. Everybody has been conditioned on watching shit animation. They don't know what good animation is anymore. The men in the suits, the money men, the businessmen have got their way. They don't need button pushing monkeys anymore because they've got AI to do it now. So the industry was shit when the button pushing monkeys were there. It's shit when they're not there, but at least we don't have button pushing monkeys thinking they're animators and thinking they have a right to talk shit about hand-drawn animation as if what they're doing is even on the same damn level. So as far as I'm concerned, good riddance. I love AI. It has no effect on me. It's not going to stop me drawing. There's hundreds of thousands, there's at least millions of people in the world that want to do hand-drawn animation. A good portion of them are going to be buying my product to learn because they're real artists. The human spirit wants to be fulfilled. If they're going to be learning from me, they're going to be signing up to my program. They're going to be creating great content. I'm going to be creating great content. What the fuck has AI got to do with us? Never anything to do with us. So I don't fear it. I don't affiliate with it. I'm just like watching a football match. You like to see. I don't want anything bad to happen to anybody. But when you watch a football match or a boxing match, you pick a side, right? So the people who do button pushing animation, automation, like 2D cutout rigged people who don't know how to draw. I'm sorry, I'm not on their side. I was never on their side, and I don't like what they do. That doesn't mean I don't wish bad things upon them, but if they're going to lose to AI, I'm on AI's side. Good, get out. You don't belong there. You ruined animation. You ruined the industry. You gave the men in suits an easy time. You got rid of the artists. You created it. Now you can be consumed by it. And now go and cry in your sleep and let the real artists draw and create real quality work independent of all that shit. It's collapsing right now and I love it. It should have gone a long time ago. The animation industry, be damned, good riddance. The real artists are going to resurface and they're going to be creating real good work, and that's what the real artists and the people who draw will then now have a place where they belong. You have order and chaos and order and chaos. The pendulum is always swinging. Out of the chaos, the real artists will surface and find a place for themselves to do great work. And art will once again be exclusive to the people who are passionate about it and who care about it. And AI will cover the rest. Brilliant. I don't speak English, but this inspired me because I'm in graphic design. From time to time you learn new things. Amazing. Thank you so much, Miss Michi. AI makes me barf. Well, Pixar has made me barf for years, as has all that Adventure Time Cartoon Network. I didn't shed a tear when Cartoon Network went down. I nodded and smiled and said, good fucking riddance. Adventure Time? Those ugly drawings? Please. We need to get some decent drawings back in animation. That's why I care more about you guys. I care. Like this person, Kim, who posted their animation in my on my wall. That was not a professional piece of animation. Back in the day when we were in the industry, that would be considered an amateur by a talented amateur. But by today's standards, her work is far superior to any of those button pushing monkeys, and I will support her and I will help her and I will put all my energy into her rather than that bullshit. Good riddance to them all. Well, it's actually a fantasy fiction of a boy who's part dragon, but Arthurian lore is a big part. Again, I don't want to get into it, but dragon and all these things, yeah. It's funny because I was watching the series Lost the other day, and I worked it out from the very beginning, and then Egyptian things started going. Everything stems from Egypt. But anyway, that's another story. AI will never outdo real art. I haven't seen Memories. I want to. I agree. If AI can balance it, I have no objection. You're quite the master of blunt and fierce truth. I mean, no offense. No, I take that as a huge compliment. As I said, in this day and age, there's a very short... People have very short attention spans. And if I'm going to be communicating to people, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to really correspond with people who resonate with hand-drawn animation. Because ultimately it helps hand-drawn animation. We're all constantly expanding and growing and improving. I'm not here to, I'm sure there's many forums where they can all hold hands and form a prayer group and cry about AI and how their lives have been ruined because of AI, and I never learned to draw, but my life's been ruined. Nonsense. Tell you what, now's the time, my friend. You're afraid of AI? Go to the $2 shop, buy a pencil and paper, hide away for a year, and learn how to really animate, because you've been deluding yourselves for 10, 20 years, pushing a mouse around believing that's animation. It never was, and it never will be. Simple as. hand-drawn animators were the realest of the real. I respect CG animators, particularly creature CG animators. I'm not talking about all software-based animation, but I'm talking about the saturation of the market with crap. It's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. Rushed out, saturated, easy crap with designs that look like they've been done by a 10-year-old. And I'm supposed to mourn the loss of this? No way. Okay. Remember, people, to keep it real. Those who are about to draw, I salute you. Do your work, not just your work and no more, but that little bit more for the lavishing sake, that little bit more that's worth all the rest. If you doubt, as you must, if you suffer, as you must, do your work. Put your heart into it and the skies will clear. And I promise, from your doubt and suffering will be born the supreme joy of life. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you all on the next live stream, which may be a bit of a way away. Maybe we'll do one next week. I'm going to be returning to my homeland of the UK for a good portion of this year, meaning that I'm going to be having to pack up and move in a lot of things. So the time and schedule of the streams will change a little bit, as will, there might be a bit of a break in my channel in terms of content, but bear with me. I'm still be around. Possibly next week you'll see a stream. I'm not sure about the week after. Okay, thank you very much for watching. I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.